Who hasn't dreamed of piloting an X-Wing or other Star Wars vehicle and taking on the Empire? Many games have tried to fulfill this dream, but only one has actually gone and made an immersive experience. The Star Wars Battle Pod is an enclosed cabinet featuring a 180-degree dome screen, 5.1 surround sound, and a flight stick and throttle. It even blows air in your face to simulate speed. All it is missing is a moving cockpit like Afterburner 2. Unfortunately, the game itself is not a simulation. It's a rail shooter, and not a particularly good one. You have limited control over your speed and the direction your vehicle is facing, but the game does most of the piloting for you. Your job is to keep the nearest enemy on screen and shoot the heck out of it. But everything is much more durable than they were in the movies. Look at this. I'm blasting the scout trooper with a speeder bike's mounted cannon and it's barely affecting him. I had to use a missile to take him out. If the Empire had used armor this strong in the movies, they wouldn't have lost. By the way, since when do speeder bikes have missile launchers? To make matters worse, your cannons overheat very quickly. Or rather, they run low on power. At first, when low power kept flashing on my screen, I thought that it meant that my shields were low. I'm not big on having to go through a tutorial before I play a game, but that's something they could have briefly explained. After all, they did feel the need to include a screen to tell you how to use a control stick and throttle. It took me a while to realize I needed to be conservative with my shots. There are 4 levels based on scenes from the original trilogy, and one new mission where you play as Darth Vader right after the first Death Star is destroyed. All of them can be selected right away. The prequels may not have had the best scripts, but there are plenty of scenes that would have made great levels for this game. I'm also disappointed that there isn't a level based on the turret gun scene from A New Hope. That would have been perfect for the Battle Pod. The second half of each level is time, and that time limit is far more likely to end your game than any of the enemies. In fact, I was only killed by enemies once. Also be sure to have your next dollar ready when you need to continue, since it doesn't give you much time at all before it gives you a game over. As of 2015, this is probably the best looking Star Wars game yet. However, unlike the Battlefront reboot, it tries not to show human faces up close, and focuses on things that are much easier to render. That said, it is still very impressive, and comes very close to looking as good as the movies. There is a bit too much going on screen at once though, and it can be difficult to see your target with so much stuff happening. The colors were washed out, and the screen was a bit fuzzy. Part of that was probably because the restaurant where I played this was brightly lit, but I think it was mostly because BattlePod uses a projector. The music, sound effects, and voice samples are all from the movies, and they all sound very good. The game tells you what to shoot, and that's about it. There isn't any context for what you are doing. The chances are, if you are the type to go to the arcades, you already know the context. What you see here is indicative of the whole game's content. There isn't any swearing, or metal bikinis, or severed limbs, or people that hate sand. But plenty of Imperials get blown up. But that's okay, because they must all be pure evil, right? There's no way the Empire is still using 10-year-old clones as troops, or using a draft to force ordinary citizens to fight for it, right? The evil Empire wouldn't be that evil, right? And Princess Leia was surely the only political prisoner on the Death Star, right? Right? I have a bad feeling about this. Star Wars Battle Pod has an excellent cabinet, but is lit down by game design that doesn't really take advantage of it. In the end, it's a cheap thrill ride that isn't cheap to experience, as it requires $2 to begin and $1 to continue, even if you beat the mission. So playing through this game that only lasts about 10 minutes costs a minimum of $6. My normal criteria for recommending a game is based on whether or not it is worth the time it takes to play through it, and I ignore price. In this case, that is difficult to do. It's definitely worth the few minutes of your time it will take to play, but the price is steep. But since this is such a unique experience, I reluctantly recommend Star Wars Battle Pod.